Hello, everybody, and welcome to AI Inside, the show where we take a look at the AI hiding inside everything in the world of technology. Boy, oh boy, each week we sometimes we talk about the news and illustrate just how deeply embedded AI is becoming into technology, and sometimes we talk to people who are making the products, the services, the AI, everything that is relying on that AI, and that's the case today. I'm Jason Howell, joined as always by my co-host Jeff Jarvis. Good to see you, Jeff.
Good to see you, boss.
Yeah, great to have you back here. This is just to kind of set the stage here. This is the last pre-record episode. So this episode was recorded in advance before my return from vacation next week. So if you've been missing the live kind of experience, you're going to get it starting next week. You have that to look forward to.
Which is also to say that podcasters don't take vacations. They just pre-record.
Apparently not. I know, Jeff, you offered it as a suggestion, like, well, we don't have to do them. And I'm like, no. The podcaster in me was like, I just can't do that. I can't bring myself to do that. Before we get started, I just want to give a big thank you to people who support us directly on Patreon. That's patreon.com/AI Inside Show. Ardith McCullough and one of our newest patrons, Mike Hallett, both support us on a regular basis, and we truly cannot do this show without your support. So thank you. And anyone else who wants to get in there and get some of the extras and all that. I'm actually wearing my AI Inside shirt.
Whoa!
I know. I didn't even show this to you, Jeff.
Yeah.
You get it if you are of a certain tier and you stick with us for 3 months. Patreon has this thing built into the service. And so I was like, hey, can I take a look at the quality of that? And it's really good quality. So there you go. All right, marketing stuff out of the way. Let's get to the fun stuff. I want to bring on to the stage with us two folks from the company MindStudio. First of all, Dmitry Shapiro, who is the CEO of MindStudio. Dmitry, it's a great privilege to meet you today. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having us on the show.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we're bringing you on the show partially or primarily because Jeff was at an event and met Sean Thielen, who is the CTO of MindStudio, and saw a little walkthrough of the product and the company that you guys are running. So Sean, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's great because we get the wide view, and then Sean, you were telling me in email, you're doing a lot of the coding, so a lot of like in the weeds code stuff, so we can really go wherever we want here. We can cover all bases.
Yeah, just for a second's background before we actually hear about it. I was at the BDMI, which is the Bertelsmann investment group, at an event they hold regularly on new AI apps, and mainly aimed at media people. And so they had a couple dozen folks there, and Sean presented Mindscape, and I was saying, "Whoa, this is amazing, MindStudio, an amazing opportunity for media people who are dumb like me to be able to make some AI." And that was, by all means, the view of the people in the room. And then I was at another event not long thereafter, a news product unconference at my former school. And a couple of folks there said, "Oh God, yeah, I use it all the time and believe in it, and it's great." So I called Jason and said, "Let's have him on."
Let's do it.
You guys should describe what it is, because I'll do a terrible job of it. But it's an impressive tool set.
Yeah, I guess as we're getting started here, I know we were talking before kind of firing off the interview. Dmitry, you worked at Google for a number of years. Like, tell us a little bit about how you both how your backgrounds kind of converged and ended up with you kind of co-founding and creating MindStudio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Sean and I met 11 years ago now on a website called Hacker News, which is like the Y Combinator message board. And I was working at Google at the time on the main campus, and Sean was still, in college. And he was building some apps in his spare time, and sort of was looking to sort of meet someone who had built some apps and done it before. And so I reached out, we became good friends. And then actually when Sean graduated college, he moved into my garage. He lived in my garage for a year and a half.
It was a 4-car garage, so,
Nice garage.
Oh, okay. So it was luxury.
Garage, but it had a couch. I had a real bed. So.
Yeah. There were worse garages. business to be in.
Okay.
Larry and Sergey had it harder, but yeah, I was still working at Google, and then in summer of 2016, I left Google, and Sean and I started this company. So almost like 8 years ago. By the way, before I was at Google for 4 years, running product on a bunch of services. A bunch of machine learning teams that were sort of like crunching all this data Google has about people primarily. This was days of Google Plus, trying to sort of.
We miss it.
Oh, those days.
We miss it.
Which is interesting, actually, if I can interrupt real quick. In the Google Plus days, Google was searching for every way to integrate all of its services and things and efforts into the Google Plus world. And now we find ourselves in the time, this moment of AI, where I'm sure you paid attention to Google's Google I/O a couple of weeks ago. And I mean, it was just white noise AI top to bottom. It's like Google's playing the same game here with AI. We got to get it into everything and get everything into it.
Yeah, this is the way that Google sort of operates in some of these scenarios. Like, Facebook was an existential threat as far as Google was concerned in 2016, and therefore, like, they had to like get social into like the backbone of social into all of Google services. That's why it was called Google Plus and not Google, Social. And now, obviously, AI is very similar. Hopefully, Google will be more successful with sort of bubbling AI up to the top. Mm-hmm. Obviously, all of Google is machine learned powered anyway. Mm-hmm. It's just now, generative AI is coming to the forefront. Anyway, before Google, I was CTO of MySpace Music, if anybody remembers MySpace. Mm-hmm. And before that, I built 2 other venture-backed companies. One was called VO Networks, VOH. It was a major competitor to YouTube. Raised $70 million there, got into a fight with Universal Music Group, won the lawsuit. They sued us for copyright infringement, won the lawsuit, won 2 appeals, but they sued our investors individually, not just the company, ended up basically choking us out. Kind of famous case, we served as the precedent to the Viacom versus YouTube case that YouTube won. Before that, I built a venture-backed cybersecurity company called Iconic Systems, raised $34 million for that. And then in the mid-90s, 95 to 99, I built the web team in Fujitsu. So I just turned 55 a couple of days ago, and Sean just turned 30 a couple of days ago. And so we've got 25 years and 2 days between us. So I'm an old nerd. He is now reaching early middle-aged nerd. And so we're nerds.
Honestly, the 4 of us here on this show, we are all nerds together.
I'm only an honorary nerd.
Yes, exactly. We're honorary nerds.
Yeah. You guys are total nerds. What are you talking about?
We talk about this stuff every single week, and we love to do it. So I guess that qualifies us as nerds. So it sounds like, Dmitry, that you've had your hands in a lot of different avenues in the world of technology. And then the last 8 years, MindStudio becomes this thing that both you and Sean unite on. And it really obviously is heavily focused on AI. And AI, 8 years ago versus what we, I'll put it in air quotes because AI can mean a million different things depending on who you're talking to. But 8 years ago, it felt like a different moment than it does right now. And you've been doing this MindStudio kind of development that whole time. How has your efforts with MindStudio changed in the beginning versus where you find yourself now, where people seem to be maybe a little more aware or a little more open to how this can really impact their business?
I'm sorry. Let me clarify. Sean and I started the company almost 8 years ago, but the company did something else. We built another platform called Koji, which we recently sold to a company called Linktree, and it was almost 2 years ago now. Basically, a month after the release of ChatGPT in November of 2 years ago almost, that we started building MindStudio, just to clarify. So we've been working together full time at this company for 8 years, but working on MindStudio for 1 3/4 years, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, then that just illustrates even more so that the many different directions that you've gone in the realm of technology. That's just fascinating to me. So what was it about this moment in AI that brought you two together to say, hey, we should do this together?
Yeah. So When I joined Google in May of 2012, I got thrown into product managing these machine learning teams, as I was mentioning, that were sort of trying to understand the world. And even before that, when we were doing VO, again, the YouTube competitor, we actually had recommendations that were machine learned recommendations before YouTube even had recommendations. So I've sort of been paying attention to the AI space for a very long time, although not involved in it, other than at Google, VO, Google, and then, recently in the last 2 years. And it was clear that the release of ChatGPT and sort of everything else that followed was a pivotal moment. And again, Sean and I very quickly understood that even though, a bunch of people at the time said, well, is this sort of another fad? We'd just gone through this like Web3 stuff, and is AI, sort of generative AI, just another fad? It was clear to us that the answer is, of course not. This thing is extraordinarily powerful, will transform the world. But also very clear that to think of AI as being sort of this chatbot that you chat with, and that's how you sort of leverage the power, wield the power of these, rapidly evolving models, this was just silly, right? Computing, for example, didn't take off until we moved from DOS to Windows. Nobody ever learned Google search operators, right, in enterprises.
Right.
And so believing that the right way that people were going to leverage this was to train employees to do this thing called prompt engineering, and everybody was going to sit there and type commands to AI models, that this was just silly. And really what needed to happen was there needs to be sort of a layer up abstraction of all of these, models, and sort of that somebody needs to create the application layer of AI. So to be able to allow, individuals or enterprises to sort of leverage all of the power of all of these different models that are now coming out, but be able to build sort of real applications using that, not just chatbots. You can certainly build chatbots as well, but the real power comes from like automations and real assistants, and like all these other things that people are building with MindStudio. So that sort of was one thing that became clear to us, is that it needs to be an application layer. The other thing that became clear very quickly was that even though at that time it looked like OpenAI was going to run away with it and sort of be the dominant provider in all of this, we knew that there would be other players. And that sort of model agnosticism was going to be really important. And really, before anybody that we at least know was sort of talking like that, we started building MindStudio to be model agnostic. And so today we support any model you can imagine. And that's really, really important. And another thing that, again, we sort of realized actually from our work prior to this in Koji was that, we needed to make it much easier for sort of non-technical people to be able to build AI applications, that, developers, sort of the lack of developers is always a bottleneck. And AI sort of ushers in, this new age of sort of low-code, no-code, the sort of idea of low-code, no-code platforms that allowed what are generally known as citizen developers to build application. That's been around for decades. But because of generative AI, there can be sort of this new generation of low-code, no-code platforms that can be sort of dramatically faster to build in, much more accessible, and obviously be able to build much more powerful applications that just a couple of years ago would have seemed as like science fiction. Anyway, we had a vision really quickly, and were able to get up to speed really quickly. It was great timing as we were selling off Koji. And, here we are now, there's over 50,000 of these AI applications that have been built, and deployed in all kinds of places, giant enterprises, government agencies, SMBs across every industry, I think.
So let me come in for just a second. So I think that our audience has a good idea of what this does. And Dmitry and Sean, you should definitely correct me if I'm wrong here. But having seen Sean's demonstration to us dumb news folks, and then played with it a little bit, my understanding of what it can do is that without coding, one can create an application atop any LLM that's available, and can even compare which LLM you want to do for the same application. And so there's a couple of samples in there. The demo that I've watched is creating an application to create blog posts. And there's steps in that, input and output, data that you can add into it, adjustments you can make in how each model operates, comparing the models, and then bingo, you can publish to the world an application built atop an LLM, and even if you pay the business fee, which isn't that great, charge for it and potentially make money by creating an application and business layer atop any LLM. Did I get that wrong?
And spot on. Yeah, that was spot on. Yeah, so you can use any model, or many applications now use multiple models or many models. So you can create these multi-step workflows. And in those workflows, you can do lots of things. You can ask users, if this is for a user, and for people to use, you can ask them for, get input output, so you can create screens just like you would in a regular application that you're creating. You can call large language models from OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Meta, Mistral, sort of any you want. We've got a bunch of enterprises now that want to use, their own private clouds or on-premise models. You can do that as well. You can call any third-party APIs via custom functions. You can upload reams and reams of data, from your enterprise, and we automatically turn it into vector embeddings, and you can query a vector database, during these steps of this workflow. So you can create like very sophisticated multi-step workflows and then publish those as sort of applications to be used by humans, meaning they've got input-output screens, or you can publish them as headless applications. So they expose API endpoints and they can be called programmatically by other applications. For example, many enterprises use things like Zapier or Make.com to create triggers that, look for whenever there's an email, for example, that comes into your inbox, take that and now call a MindStudio created AI that does the processing of that and then does something, and then can call other processes if you want. So really easy to learn. Again, tens of thousands of people building these things now, many of them completely non-technical, have never written a line of code in their life. You watch some YouTube tutorials and, certainly within an hour, half an hour to an hour, you feel proficient. And then, in a day, perhaps, you start to feel like a master. And then you sort of start to look at the world. And again, mostly how people use this, how enterprises use this, is, again, once they understand what they can do with MindStudio, they can look at their operations, sales, marketing, HR, whatever, finance, and start to realize that, like, there are things that they're doing now using humans that they can just automate. Like, they can create automations using MindStudio to completely take humans out of the equations. Humans no longer need to do this part of the workflow. That's amazing. That's incredible ROI, extraordinarily powerful, faster, better quality, etc. Then once you've automated everything that can be automated, you start to look at things that can be partially automated. Maybe the human still needs to be involved, but a lot of it could be automated. And so AI can sort of do a bunch of heavy lifting of that with human involved. And so you can quickly create those kinds of things. Once you've done that, you start to say, okay, great. Now for things that humans really need to do they have the right applications to be able to do that? Like, meaning, are these old SaaS products we've been using from last generation, are those still the best applications for them to use? Or might they benefit from a completely new set of business applications that fit them like a glove for each job function in the enterprise that's needed? And you can very quickly, again, as an enterprise yourself, without developers, create these custom business applications for all of these different job functions you have, and replace old SaaS solutions, and things become much more efficient and more productive and all of that. And then sort of finally, you can, for things that are ad hoc, where people still need to periodically sort of like chat with a let's say a ChatGPT or some other language model, great. The enterprise can replace that with enterprise grade, enterprise managed conversational AIs that they can give their employees, that are aware of the enterprise's sensibilities and constraints and can enforce all of those, that are aware of the job function of the human for whom they are serving versus another human who they're serving have access to enterprise data. And all of this is, managed by the enterprise. And so they've got, granular user management and logging, archiving, compliance, AI business intelligence, so comprehensive solution for AI digital transformation of any type of an organization, from tiny, one-person shops to giant enterprises.
So let me ask. I'm going to ask this of you, Sean. Mm-hmm. What strikes me here, I mean, you're a CTO. You do code, but are you eliminating a lot of roles and jobs in companies by what you do? Jensen Huang of NVIDIA said not long ago that universities should stop training computer scientists. Obviously, at your level, you're needed. But it strikes me a lot of the applications that I see, as Dmitry just explained, are things that you would have had a technology department creating. But now it strikes me that almost managers and product people can create these applications without coders and coding. Is that true? And do you feel guilty about that?
Well, I have an English degree, so I didn't have computer science. So I may
the revenge of liberal arts. I'm delighted to hear it.
Yeah, maybe biased in kind of answering that a bit, but no, I think actually, the way I see a lot of this, and if you look at kind of the history of Dmitry's and my work together, this thread kind of emerges of, like, how can you bring these new amazing tools closer to the people who are doing the work and the people who are, solving the problems on the ground? Like, rather than kind of alienating the people who are doing the work and just kind of sitting around waiting for someone to develop some solution that will hopefully make their lives better, how do we make sure that these tools are available to everyone in a way that they can actually, use and take advantage of and feel kind of agency and power over? Because I think, like, if I go back to kind of when we first started, that was kind of the era of, you'd read a new op-ed every day about, like, is ChatGPT going to take over the world, and like what's going to happen here? And as a developer, as someone who knew how to use these APIs, I felt like, a total mismatch in kind of what I was seeing in terms of people's reaction versus what I felt empowered to build, because I could actually wrangle these things and use them to do interesting things and solve problems and express myself in new ways and all of that. So, like, yeah, I think kind of implicit in everything we're building is how can we recenter the power to be more proximate to the people who are doing the work and solving the problems. So I'm not sure if that quite answers the question.
It does.
It pivots in a different direction. But
it seems like a VisiCalc moment. Mm-hmm. That is to say, my late father, who was a sales manager at selling resistors and wing nuts and wire nuts in the electronic industry, right? And so he had projections for his sales staff. Come the spreadsheet, it opened the world to him differently, that he could do projections and what ifs, and the tool was brought down to his level. And he didn't need any technical expertise. And as he got older, he had less and less technical expertise. And that's why I was there. My son was there for him. But it really, I think that speaks loudly to me that you're bringing these tools to the level where it's useful. So you can be a manager of any sort and say, gee, I wonder whether I could do this. And you can use this tool with not much effort to create that. True?
And I think when you reframe the relationship that you have with these kind of almost mythologized technologies such that you see them as tools over which you have agency, I think we can have a lot more productive conversations just broadly as a society about their effects and places we should, get involved and what we should do about it, rather than, kind of having to ask the question every single conversation of, like, should it be allowed to fly drones? And I'm like, I don't know. I want to talk about disinformation. But yeah, I think, like, what you're saying speaks to kind of my creative impulse in all of this, which is, like, as someone who knows how to write code and build software, like, I so often look at the work that people, that we work with are doing, or the things my friends are doing, and I'm like, oh, I could just write you a little script that would free up like 6 hours of your day that you're not spent like banging your head against your computer getting this done. And I think when you can bring that feeling to more people, being able to take advantage of kind of this new way of interacting with technology, like I think it, helps us think about our work in completely new ways.
Yeah. And what comes to mind for me is the automatic kind of go-to response to kind of the scenario that you were spelling out there in the beginning, Sean, is, oh, wait a minute. So you mean we don't need coders anymore because this thing can do it for? And the reframe there is, no, it's not that we don't need coders. It's that we now have these incredibly powerful tools that enable coders to be even better than they were without them, or enable people in the position to think that they have an idea, but they have no idea how to execute on it. Now suddenly they have the ability to do that. They've got a tool set that's accessible to them that opens up their capabilities and allows them to do even more with less effort, with less time. That's kind of the beauty of what I hear you guys talking about with MindStudio.
I think the beauty, and I think I'll give you the provocative answer in there, which is that I think that is also the scary thing of like, I think we are on the cusp of having to reevaluate kind of what work is and why we do things. And I say this, as the slightly embittered English major, who's some of the most creative and like wonderful people I know, who are like beautiful poets and authors, have been stuck doing copywriting and like writing ad copy and things like that. And it's like, maybe we should, rethink the way we value some of the work that we've been doing. And maybe it's going to be messy and weird and uncomfortable, but if we can, make it through to the other side of it, I think it's going to be beautiful.
Dmitry, how this is, as you've talked about it, it's very much an enterprise value of companies being able to do things. But for the artists who want to use these tools, for others who want to use it for others purposes like education, do you see it getting easier and easier to the point that it's almost B2C in retail?
Yeah, look, it's already being used by thousands of just individuals, including artists and creators and physicians and all kinds of folks that are using it. So yeah, when we say the term enterprise, we use it quite loosely, meaning like any kind of an endeavor where you're trying to get something done, and that something might be you want sort of more creativity, you want a creative partner to be able to help you do whatever it is you're doing as an artist. Well, you can now, in a sense, build that creative partner. And now ChatGPT, people argue, is a creative partner. And I agree, it is a creative partner. But with MindStudio, you can build a creative partner that's radically more specialized for you than ChatGPT is, because ChatGPT is just generic, off the shelf, amazing thing. But you want more specificity, and so you can build that. And again, behind the scenes, you can actually still use GPT, the models from OpenAI or from any other model provider, or again, many model providers simultaneously. But you get customized, in this case, creative partner. Or again, most endeavors care about getting something done. So let's say it's productivity and efficiency. And so again, that could be an individual that's just working and trying to get the stuff done. Individuals have workflows for whatever it is they do, whatever their endeavor is. Well, with MindStudio, any individual can now look at their workflow and say, this stuff I've been doing manually that I'd hate to do. I constantly check my emails looking for things, or I've got some e-commerce form where people fill it out and, ask for my services, and I got to go like parse that form a couple of times a day and do it. You can just automate all that stuff. And so like you can take things off your plate that you don't want to do, or make yourself sort of radically more productive by having that done, much faster, right? And so there are applications for any individual that wants to sort of get assistance in their life for whatever endeavor they choose to do, whether that's a business or creative endeavor.
Yeah. And I think I would add to that just on the point about like multiple models and being able to extend them. Like, it is really interesting to be able to compare the output from different models from different vendors for the same query. And I think like, especially for the AI enthusiasts, of which like we all are, like it is cool to see a new headline and be like, Google has some new thing that is, better at passing the LSAT than the last thing. And it's like, okay, that's cool. But like, how can I actually feel that and get an intuitive sense of what's going on? And I think, being able to explore those sorts of things qualitatively, it actually leads to a much better and more empowered user experience at the end of the day.
Let me ask about the business model here for you and for the user. So there's a starter kit that is free. There's a pro kit, which is $49, and then enterprise pricing varies. So I pay that to you to be able to do this. But then obviously below that, I pay usage-based prices to the model companies, to OpenAI or Perplexity or whoever it is. Do I pay that for how many tokens there are? And on the site you list the cost per tokens. Do I pay that through you? Do I have to have separate accounts with these model providers? How does that work as I'm trying to build here?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so we've got these multiple tiers. On the free tier, you can, you've got a bunch of features, and you've got your own personal workspace, and you can create AIs and use these different models. And we give you, $5 credit on each account for these usage costs for calling the models. And then beyond that, you have to put in your credit card and you pay, metered billing. We also have a Teams tier, which we call Pro, which is if you're working as a team and you want collaborative workspaces and you want to build these headless AIs to be able to use in automation things, you can pay $49 per month per seat. It's basically an enterprise tier as well, sort of like a junior enterprise. So the metered pricing is run through us, and so you don't have to have your own accounts on all of these model providers. You simply create a MindStudio account, and then we meter them and pass those costs on to you.
So right there, when everyone is trying to charge you $20 a month at a minimum, you have the all-you-can-eat buffet, though you do pay as you go, but you don't have to pay the subscription rates to each of these companies.
Totally.
Well, and then for your business model, you're making the $49 or whatever. Mm-hmm. Do you get a slice of the fee to the model makers?
We do. Yeah. So we take a cut of that, and then the primary fee we get is the per seat per month on the Pro tier. Yeah.
So as a business, do you see doing more of these $49 Pro accounts or more of the enterprise larger accounts that you become the application layer within companies?
Yeah. So we're actually about to launch, not this coming week, but the week after, an additional tier that we're calling Individual Pro, which is going to get a bunch of new capabilities. And then there's the Teams and Enterprise. We are focused on the enterprise, again, even though there's thousands of consumery things that are being built with MindStudio. Our sort of focuses on enterprise. Inside enterprises, primarily what these enterprises are doing is that thing that I mentioned earlier, which is like digital transformation, finding efficiencies through automation and assistance and all of that. And there, there's a bunch of integrations to other systems that they tend to do. And so our primary approach there, sort of custom deals with larger enterprises for these per seat plus metered usage.
All right, one more dumb question, and I'll let Jason get back in, but just on terms of the business. So let's say that the video demo you have is a really good, clear demo of how to make a blog post writer. God help us, blogs will get loaded with all this stuff, but we'll leave that for another day as an old blogger. And let's say I use Claude or GPT on the back end there. Is there a cost to success for me creating the application, in that if it gets really popular, suddenly I'm getting all kinds of token fees from my users using it a lot? Question one. Question two, it seems to me that's where the opportunity comes in, that I can charge my users and profit from it the same way you do. Is that kind of where this goes?
Yeah. So if you're an enterprise and you're using it internally, obviously you open it up simply to your internal users and you pay, the metered costs. You can absolutely, and many people have done this, create AIs with MindStudio and then make them publicly available. So just any user on the internet can show up and use it. These are just web applications. That's how they're published. So they've got a URL. Or you could wrap them in a native wrapper and publish them to the app stores as well. People have done that. And there, you could absolutely get a lot of people using your application. And because they're using your application, because it's calling models that you're being billed for inference, for usage of the models. Right. Now, at that time, you should absolutely either pay it because that's what you do, or put up a paywall, which many people have done, and charge your users for accessing your AI. And then behind the scenes, you're paying obviously usage costs for it to run. There are multi-million-dollar a year businesses that have already been built on MindStudio in this way, where people have built AIs using MindStudio, put them behind paywalls, and then charge access to the AIs that they've built, via the paywall.
Can you give any examples?
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
academicinsightlab.org are Kimberly and Jessica. They are academic consultants, both PhDs. Before MindStudio, they sold their time advising, faculty and staff at universities on building, PhD, postdoc programs, and then discovered MindStudio and have now built over 80 AI applications using MindStudio, and then charge access to these 80 applications to faculty and staff individually at universities, and also have enterprise deals with universities where they sell at that scale.
Wow. When someone builds something like this, is there any, because new models are being released on a regular basis, and changes just inevitable. Is there any situation in which changes hit some of these systems or these models that are driving some of these solutions that people are releasing, where they change and holy cow, what once worked no longer works the same way? How is that addressed?
Not typically. These models tend to go up and down periodically in sort of their availability, right? So there's like a lot of fail whales for the old timers. And by the way, this is why MindStudio, is like really powerful, because you could very easily just switch to another model provider. And again, they all generally behave, very similarly. There's some nuance that, one model might be faster, cheaper, and better at something versus another. But like you can fail over to other models and still stay up and maintain your business. We make that easy to do. And there are new models coming out all the time. And so you might want to upgrade your application to be able to use newer models. We make that trivially easy also. You just pick a new model. Eventually, we will allow you to opt in that we automatically can do that for you, programmatically and intelligently. In real time, choose the right model. And if they fail, cut over. If one becomes better for your use case, automatically switch to it. Today, you kind of have to monitor it yourself and make those choices, but we make it trivially easy to then upgrade.
I think one of the things that we actually see kind of often in user journeys is basically like people will show up and they'll be like, I need GPT-4o, or I need, Claude 3, whatever. Like I need the biggest and baddest model to do every single thing. And then as they continue building and experimenting and exploring, they often find that like the cheaper, faster, oftentimes open source models are more than good enough for their use cases. So it's interesting to watch the way that people pick models and kind of learn how to engage with models depending on the task they're performing.
Wow.
That's really cool stuff. I love it.
Besides deep business, go ahead, Jason. Sorry, you go.
Well, I was just going to say, I love where we're at right now, where these capabilities, where actually, as we're doing this interview, I'm like, you picked a really great name for all of this, because it really is about creativity in my mind, about how, we've got the things in our business or the things that we want to pull off. How can we utilize the tools that exist in order to do this? And everything that's happening in the development of AI and all these different directions, having some way to kind of like harness the power of all of them individually, bring them together, and create something that didn't exist before that can, make your life just a little bit easier. Like I know, working for myself, I'm always looking for ways to kind of, make my life a little bit easier. So it's nice to be able to build a tool and then, potentially let others use that too, and make their lives easier. It's really neat.
Yeah. It's exactly as Jeff was suggesting that happened to his dad. It is that kind of a moment where when we got spreadsheets, the world changed. And that was sort of the first thing that we were all able to do to create applications. A spreadsheet allows you to create applications, right? By how you format the spreadsheet. It's not just for like entering manually things into cells. It's ability to create formulas and the ability to link cells together, and like all of that. That was sort of the first enablement of business users to be able to create information technology. This is yet another phase of that, but obviously in many more dimensions and much more powerful.
And I think on the spreadsheet example, use cases are also interesting too, of like, when was the last time anyone used a spreadsheet to do accounting? I'm using spreadsheets to just organize things, share plans, all of that, like make lists, stuff like that. So I think when you give these tools to more people, the ways they use them kind of actually blossom in exciting and interesting new ways.
So that leads to my last question, not necessarily Jason's, is besides creating a major business, just what neat applications have you seen created out of the tool you created? And are there any surprises in how people are using this?
Well, there's over 50,000 of these AIs that are now deployed, so it's hard to pick.
So start with the first one and tell us a little bit about every single one.
I'll give you a bunch of random examples. Let's call them. And arguably, like they're all surprising because they're sort of all new. And so we're constantly seeing a stream of like interesting things. Inside of organizations, and again, for the purpose of automation and creating custom business applications and these specialized assistants. By the way, we have a matrix on our website that's sort of segmented by job function, right? Sales, marketing, HR, et cetera. So across all of these different job functions in these organizations, we tend to see patterns of things that people create. And then within these patterns, obviously, sort of countless derivatives. One pattern is the pattern of being able to take things like, there's a big government agency that gets thousands of resumes sent per month, and used to have people that sat there and like looked at this inbox and like scanned these resumes, and then some were a no-go at all. Some needed some more information, so they'd like have to reach out to the person, get more information, and whatever, classified them and then routed them to the right thing into some system. Have to put them in manually into some kind of a tracking system. Well, that no longer happens with any humans doing it. An HR manager in this organization found MindStudio and built automations that take that and automate that process now. So people are freed up doing this work that they hated doing anyway, and doing it there. Also, the same kind of pattern exists across many enterprises that are using MindStudio from sort of a sales intake capability. Most companies now have forms on the web that customers fill out or prospects fill out, asking for more information, or wanting to talk to a salesperson, whatever. And again, all of that can now be automated, where the AI is watching the form intake, and whenever it gets triggered, it uses intelligence and does the workflow that's been defined by people who, again, the same people that used to do the job have now built automations that just get rid of them having to do that job so they can move on and do other things. So taking a bunch of information of people trying to reach you in some way or another, or people have it looking at their email inboxes. Again, the same pattern of like people are trying to reach you, figure out if you want to talk to them, what to do with them, and then sort of process the first part so you can just get to the nitty gritty of it. And that's a big unlock, because the amount of time we waste scanning through emails and doing all that is silly. In a sense, if you had a personal assistant, a human personal assistant, that would be one of the first things you would ask them to do, is just watch my inbox so I don't have to watch my inbox, and then clean it and just give me the things that I need to pay attention to. Wow, everyone can build that now. So we see that often. Then again, sticking with sales, obviously sales is arguably the most important function in any company, right? You need to bring in revenue. Okay, great. Well, sales is a multi-step thing that happens over some period of time, and better salespeople, salespeople that are more capable do a better job than salespeople that are not as capable, right? That's just a fact. So sales does matter. sales skills matters. And by the way, human salespeople tend to do better than just, a website, right? Because human salespeople can pay attention and ask questions and have a conversation and all of that. But the problem is, of course, that's resource intensive from a human resource standpoint. So people are building assistants that help the salespeople be radically more productive. One example of that is everybody's now recording and transcribing, their conversations. You see these assistants show up like Firefly and Otter, etc. And most of the time, this goes into some bucket and nobody really pays attention to it. Now you can have an AI watching that bucket. And whenever a conversation is happening between salesperson and prospect, the AI is sitting there listening and asking the question of, is this person ready to buy? What questions are they asking that they need answers to as follow-up? What questions are they not asking, which might be even a bigger sign of what they don't understand? People are shy. Everybody wants to look smart, so they're afraid to ask dumb questions. And in sales, that's a catastrophe, because if they don't ask dumb questions, they don't understand the value of your product, and you don't make the sale. And so AI is really good at being able to sort of read between the lines and then help the salesperson then automatically create the sales collaterals for the salesperson, personalized for each prospect, have them sent out, and sort of help project manage, in a sense, the entire workflow. By the way, there are countless other examples, but those are some, interesting ones that are extraordinarily powerful and have, great ROI. Yeah.
And I think I would add to that in all of those examples, I think you can see very clearly the value that having them be created by the person who is close to the work. Like, the one size fits all solution that is going to magically improve your sales process might be kind of cool for a little bit, but it's going to pale in comparison to the thing that's been purpose designed with all of, your company history and hooking into your CMS and your CRM and all of that, and just connecting all the dots in kind of this personalized way. So empowering these, in this case, sales leaders or HR managers or people like that to be the ones to actually build out the applications, because they're the ones who best know how to use them. And I think this also helps us, when we think about hallucinations and what if this thing makes mistakes? Well, if the person who is using it is also the person who built it, they're going to be much closer to the process and be more involved and understand what it's good at, what it's not good at, and how to use it effectively, rather than just relying on it as some kind of magic one-size-fits-all tool that just, they press a button and disappear.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Really cool stuff. Really appreciate both of you coming on to tell us all about MindStudio. MindStudio.ai is where folks can go to kind of get a good sense of what they might want to build using the power of all of these different AI models and everything that's integrated into it. And should definitely get started. But Dmitry Shapiro and Sean Thielen, I really appreciate you taking some time to tell us a little bit about this, the kind of no-code world that we're firmly implanted in, and what that's opening up for people down the line. I think that's really, at the end of the day, what's really exciting to me about all this stuff is what do we see when we are relieved of the burden of some of the stuff that could easily be handed off. And it seems like MindStudio is a great tool to address that. So thank you both.
Thanks,
really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, really great to meet you. And we will we wish you the best of luck, and we'll talk with you soon.
Be well.
All right. And Jeff, that is it. We've reached the end of this episode of AI Inside. I'm sure you want people to go to Gutenberg.com. Is that right?
Yep. And welcome back from your vacation.
Yeah, right. This is the moment of my vacation where I'm starting to look at the calendar and go, oh, real life begins next week. Yes, I will be back next week, and so will our live stream schedule. I will be very jet lagged, so I'm apologizing in advance, but we do normally record live every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern on the TechSploder YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/@TechSploder. We publish the show later to the podcast feeds after we do it live. So look for that next week. You can also support us directly on Patreon, patreon.com/AI Inside Show. We offer ad-free shows, early access to videos, Discord community, regular hangouts and with me and sometimes Jeff and sometimes the rest of the community. And we offer the ability to be an executive producer of this show that right now, Dr. Do, Jeffrey Maricini, and our newest executive producer, WPVM 103.7 in Asheville, North Carolina. There you go. Thank you for your support. We could not do this show without all of you helping us behind the scenes. Everything you need to know found at AIinside.show. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time on another episode of AI Inside. Bye, everybody.